Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. Now, what I just played right there was Row, and that's what we're going to discuss today. I absolutely love having a clean tin sound in the middle of that composition. Now, I'm going to get into exactly what it is and how to play it. Quick story about my own personal relationship, I guess you can call it, with Row. But before I get to that, I've created a community on the platform Skool. This is really for those that want to invest in themselves. They want to pay for classes. We have multiple teachers. I'm teaching people on every continent except Antarctica. I'm sure one day that will happen as well. But we're just having breakthroughs all the time. We're laughing. We're having fun. So if all that sounds good to you, just click the link in the description and join us. Now, let's get to what Row is and my quick story about it. Now, I found out about Row. I didn't know what it was called when I was 15 or 16. That's when my obsession with just listening to tabla all the time started. And Row was just one of those things I put at just such a high importance. You know, Pandit Nindo Chatterjee would play it, Ustad Zakir Hussain. And it was just this tidal wave, you can call it, that would just kind of hit you. You know, it was just so nice to listen to. So I kind of really gave it too much importance. And when I say too much importance, I mean that let's take Dhinagana, for example. To me, you know, people played it. It was just a fun thing you would play. That always has come so easily for me. I don't need to warm up for Dhinagana. It's just always good to go. But when you put something on a pedestal, make it too important, especially a composition, you kind of slow down your progress on it. It's kind of weird. I always, in my mind, Dhere Dhere and Row, these were things that, you know, if you play them well, then, you know, you're an ustad. So as soon as you do that, you kind of stall yourself out and you overcomplicate your practice most likely. At the end of the day, it's almost all just about throwing your hand. All of these things I talk about on this channel. So I want you to keep that in mind. Don't put anything on a pedestal too much, whether it's playing fast, playing a certain composition. You're just going to overcomplicate it. And your progress will be slow, if not, will be stalled out completely. So now let's discuss Row and what it is. Now, it's also called Rav and Rau. I like to call it Row. It's just so, I just remember it that way. Because also I made the tidal wave example and you call it row like you're rowing a boat. So those things, you know, I just connect in my mind together. Basically what Row is you play something in single speed, and then in the double speed, you fill the gaps with dedikite. And you want to draw this out. You want to tease it, kind of be fun with it. It's a very flowy thing. So when I do give the bulls, I'll do my best to play exactly what I have on screen. But I must say it does change based on my mood. I won't always maybe play the ta where I will or the dha. But basically, that's my take on, you know, how I play Row personally. So let's get into what the single speed is. So let's take a look. Yes, here we go. So dha, dhete te dhati dhati dha dhete te dhati dha, dhete te dhati dhati dha dhete te dhati na, tete te nati nati na tete te nati na, dhete te dhati dhati dha dhete te dhati dha. And that dha again is in the beginning. Now sometimes I'll play that dhati in the second line, the last one. I'll play that as nati, but I'm just giving you options on, you know, what you can do. So it goes like this. So, a little bit faster. Now, you can do full hand tete or two finger, but the two finger one is more obvious because the whole thing is usually played with the three finger dedikite. So, a little bit faster. if you're playing the single speed at that speed I just played at, you really have mastered this, because that double speed will really be pretty fast, pretty fast. So now we're going to look at how you would fill delicate in this. So let's take a look at that. Now, one thing I've done in this that is kind of confusing is some places I write da, but then I also have a na in, I think that's what, the fourth line. So those are the same bowl, so don't get confused by that. So like this, da, din like da, one more time, da, din like da, like din like da, like din like da, like din like na. Din like da like din like da like din like da. So like this. A bit faster. So the tha and na, don't get confused by that. I think that was a bit of an error on my part. It should have just been all tha or all na. But anyway, so that's how you can play it. One thing about this is you don't just want to play this entire thing in the just from the get-go. You just play sections of it. You know, you just play the first line. You play da, din da, and then you go back into single. You know, you play a little bit more, then you play a little less of the single, then finally you do the entire thing. You know, you really just want to tease this and be a performer. You know, you don't want to be a student at this point. You know, just really have fun with it and flow with it. That's kind of my point. So that's, you know, and this is of course one way you can play it. There's other ways you can play it as well. This is just one example. Now I'm going to show you different ideas of variations that you can do with this, different directions I guess you can take it in. You can do with the din bowl, or din. You can do the open din bowl. You can do the full hand terikite and the dere dere. So I'm going to show you all these different directions you can take it in. Let's take a look. So this would be the closed hin. So so by closed hin I mean, so this would go a bit faster. So I really love, and I was able to do this to some extent, when you really even put more emphasis on that dhin. When you play the terikit a little bit quiet and then out just jumps the dhin, you know, it just sounds so beautiful, especially on a good tabla like this, or what many of you all may be using as well. It just sounds so good. I can't even really describe it. It's like a surprise, you know, with the dynamic between the closed sound of the terikita and the open dhin. Just sounds beautiful. So let's now take a look, I believe, at now the open dhin, how you can use that. Let's take a look. So open dhin. Din tirikit like din tirikit like dha tirikit dha tirikit like din tirikit like da din tirikit like din tirikit like dha tirikit like din tirikit like da din tirikit like din tirikit like dha tirikit like din tirikit like da din tirikit like din tirikit like dha tirikit like din tirikit like da. So like this. This is usually difficult for me to say, but I'm saying it properly. So like this. So a little bit faster. So I add a little thin in there at the end. I usually do that when I close out any of the demos. Why, I really don't know. It just sounds right to me. So that's one way to do it. Now, right there, I think, you could play it a little bit clearer. One thing I haven't talked about much is when you are playing row, the terekete isn't the traditional terekete that you play kind of right in the middle. It's kind of on the outside. That's why I don't recommend this for just extreme beginners, because I don't want you to just get used to this flowy terekete. Then you can't play I really want you to develop both of those sounds. But this is just like a nice open kind of, composition. That was something I really fought for a long time. My obsession was clarity, and I was very militant about that. Everything had to be very distinct and clear. So I would try to play this, and my hand could never just get that flowy, like you're painting with the paintbrush kind of flow, to it. But now I've kind of accepted that this isn't like the other terekete relas, basically. So let's take a look at now the full hand terekete, how you can integrate that into row. So it's like this. Terekete tak tak din. One more time. Terekete tak tak din terekete tak ta terekete ta terekete tak. One more time. Terekete tak tak din terekete tak ta terekete ta terekete tak din terekete tak ta. Terekete tak tak din terekete tak ta terekete ta terekete tak din terekete tak ta. Terekete tak tak din terekete tak ta terekete ta terekete tak din terekete tak ta. Terekete tak tak din terekete tak ta terekete ta terekete tak din terekete tak ta. Man, that's not easy to say. So it goes like this. Let me do that one more time and make sure I'm playing the ta where it's supposed to be. So like this. So a little bit faster. So, like I said earlier, the ta and the dha, just depending on how I want to fill the bias strokes is how I do it. It is subject to change. I wrote it one way, but I do want you to understand, as long as you're following that teen tal framework with the kali, you can kind of, paint outside the lines. So let's now look at what I consider the most challenging variation that you can do with row, which is the dhere dhere. So let's take a look. Dha terikit tak dhere dhere kit tak dha terikit tak dhin terikit tak dha dha terikit tak dhere dhere kit tak dha terikit tak dhin terikit tak dha na terikit tak dhere dhere kit tak dha terikit tak dhin terikit tak dha dha terikit tak dhere dhere kit tak dha terikit tak dhin terikit tak dha. So like this. One more time. Let me move this back a little bit. So. A little bit faster, but not too much faster. So. Once more. So. So. That's basically the 4 ways you can vary in row. Now, did I stick 100% to the bowls that I put on screen? Not exactly, but like I said, one thing I should have mentioned, obviously probably before, is that this is all the terekete to have the bias strokes in it. You really won't be playing cut at that high speeds. So keep that in mind. Take this as a framework that you can variate on and do your own variations. Don't follow exactly what I've put here, But just understand, you can do variations with dhin, open dhin, derekite, and dere dere. So you have all these options. Now go have fun. Thank you.